If you're a wagon fan in the United States, you don't have too many options nowadays, but Volvo still has two, with the V60 Cross Country and the V90 Cross Country. As a parent and a pet owner, I like the idea of a wagon. As always, I'm going to go through this 2024 Volvo V90 Cross Country from the outside in and talk about what it's been like to live with for the past week. Let's go ahead and take a look. Underneath the hood here, we've got the B6 powertrain going on, which is replacing the outgoing T6 from a couple of years ago. This is going to be a 2-liter 4-cylinder with a turbocharger as well as an electronically controlled supercharger. It is a mild hybrid system with a 48-volt motor, so a lot going on here, but the system makes 295 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. As far as fuel efficiency, you're looking at about 25 combined for city and highway, and it's going to be going through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Again, no matter which trim level, it's the only powertrain, so that is your only transmission choice, and it's going to be all-wheel drive. Now, it is mostly a front-biased all-wheel drive system, but you can get up to 50% of the power going to the back. We'll talk about that a little bit more during the drive. The first thing I noticed about this V90 is the color. This is actually a new color for 2024. It's called denim. It's more of kind of a teal. I don't know where they came up with denim for that color, but I love the way it looks when the light hits it just right. Overall, we're looking at about 195 inches overall. So if you're comparing this to the V60, then this is about 7 inches longer than that one is. I've had no issues fitting it in my garage. It's a little bit on the tight side, but really hasn't been a problem. If you think about it, there are some big sedans out there, the A8, the Lexus LS, even the Charger, that are quite a bit longer than this wagon. So that was a little bit surprising. I thought it was, you see the low, long roof, it makes it look a lot longer than it is. It is long, but it's not huge. Shouldn't have an issue with parking or with putting it in a garage. Wheelbase here, we're looking at 116 inches on the wheelbase, about 3 inches longer than the wheelbase of the V60 if you're cross-shopping those. Nice and long for great ride quality, great planted feel. And if you're in the plus trim, you're going to be on 19s. This one, the ultimate trim, comes standard on 20s. This one has the optional 21s. So these are the biggest wheels you can get on the V90. They do look great, but personally, I would stick with the smallest wheels possible. I'd love to get those 19s just because that does help with ride quality quite a bit. You're going to be wrapped in all seasons, no matter which wheels you end up with. These mirrors here, we do have the LED turn signal in here. They will tilt when you go in reverse. They will auto fold, as you can see, when it's locked. Get keyless access to unlock and to lock. And underneath the mirror here, there is a camera because this does have the full 360 view. And all of that is standard. It doesn't matter which trim level you are in outside of the wheels, as I mentioned. And looking up top, we do have rails, of course. You can get all kinds of accessories if you want to pack a bunch of stuff on top of there. Then you can get all kinds of stuff through Volvo or in the aftermarket if you need J-hooks or cross rails or whatever it is that you need to stack your stuff up on top. And these wipers up here are rain sensing, and they have that fancy little feature where the fluid comes up through the wiper instead of coming up from the bottom where the hood is. Pretty nice little touch there. For the back end here, love the light design going on through here. Got the LED taillights. We got the brake bar going on up top. We do have a rear wiper. Always love to see that. Backup cam hidden under there, and your parking sensors across the back. Again, doesn't matter which trim level you're going to get the camera. Of course, you have to have a backup camera because it's post 2018. And we got the parking sensors again, no matter which trim. Cross Country is the only way to get the V90. Just a little note in case you're looking at a V90 versus a V90 Cross Country. If it just says V90, it means it's one of the older ones. I believe 2020 is the last year that they made the standard V90. B6 is your powertrain. All-wheel drive is the only way to get it. To open up the hatch, you do have a function on the key. Not too much going on the key, just lock, unlock, and hatch, and then a panic button on the other side. But you also have kick to open, which works whenever it feels like working, apparently. And that opens up into 25 cubic feet of space. It's going to be quite a bit more than the V60. If you're looking at the V60, that one's about 18 cubic feet. So lots of space in this one. And as you can see, this one does have the dog cage accessory. This is not part of any trim level. This is something you can get after the fact. This space in here, this just opens right up nice and easy. Love to see that. So my dog is about 60 pounds, Walker. He doesn't quite fit in this one. If you have a bigger dog, definitely would not get this cage. I would just maybe get that metal bar across the back of the seats if you don't want them slobbering all over your seats or slobbering all over your kids or your backseat passengers or whatever it is. Then maybe just that back cage. But this is an option if you have a smaller dog. One thing I did expect, since it is a wagon, I expected it to be a little bit lower to the ground, which meant as a parent, as a pet owner, it's easier to load stuff into the back of the car. It's easier for the dog to get into the back of the car. But actually, it's about 7.9 inches of ground clearance, so 7.9 inches off the ground, which is really more in SUV territory. So I was a little bit surprised at how high it is. It was a little bit tougher to get into the car for my dog than I expected it to be, but he did get in okay. You can get a scuff plate to go across the bumper here if you'd like a little bit of extra protection from those dog claws. Underneath this, which I'm not going to open up because I don't want to take this all apart, you do have a spare under there. There is some extra storage space as well. There's a 12 volt on the side here. You got the ski pass through between the seats, as well as the 60-40 split on the seats. You can get a privacy cover for this if you want as well. And of course, to close it, if you want to close it from here, you can. You can also lock it halfway if you don't want it to close all the way. And you have the grab handles as well. But I like that halfway stop because if I'm trying to get my dog out, but I don't want him just sprinting out into the parking lot, I can just open it up a little bit, hook him into his leash, grab the leash, and then let it open the rest of the way. In the inside here of this V90, it is definitely luxury in here. You get that luxury feeling. The only things I really have an issue with are the gloss black through here, which everyone is using nowadays. The last couple of Volvos I've been in have had even more of that gloss black, so at least there's not a ton of it, but I could go without this. But outside of that, there is the wood trim all around. I love that. When I think of Volvos, I think of the old ones with the old Volvo wagons with the wood paneling on the side, and I just associate the wood with Volvo. So I love that they put the wood trim around. It's also just a nice feature, a nice like little luxury feature. Now this one is the ultimate trim, so there are going to be some things in here that are not going to be on the Plus. If you're looking at the Plus trim, I will mention what the differences are as I go through the features here. It's still going to be a pretty nice interior either way. We got this nice leather wrap steering wheel. It's heated. We do have the gloss black buttons on here. I wish these were the matte black ones instead of the gloss black, but simple, not a whole lot of functionality here to choose from, so it does make it easy to use. Gauge cluster, nice and simple. You get the map in there, you get the tach, you get the speedometer, you get a little bit of extra information. Volvo keeps it pretty clean, pretty simple in terms of the gauge cluster. And there's not a whole lot you can do with the cluster. Either you turn the map on, you turn the map off, you look at your trip stats, and that's pretty much it. The heads-up display up here is only because of the ultimate trim. It's pretty basic here, just has a little bit of information in it. We'll talk about it a little bit more during the driving portion, but regular stalks, they didn't get rid of any stalks. Love to see that. This leather dashboard here is because we're in the ultimate trim. You wouldn't get the leather dash if you were in the Plus trim. Android Automotive infotainment system, not to be confused with Android Auto. This is a Google-based system, which means it works pretty much the same as your Android phone would. If you have an Android phone or an Android-based system like a Google phone or anything like that, then this is going to be pretty familiar. Now, if you have an iPhone, you can hook into Apple CarPlay, but you know, it works like a phone. If you want to download Spotify, you download Spotify through the Play Store. If you want to watch YouTube, don't do that while you're driving, please, but just go into the Play Store and download YouTube, and it works like your phone does. There are a few other menus in here to control some of your settings, your driver's assist settings. Some of the controls, you can knock down the back headrests if you want. You can control some of the lights in the lighting in here. You know, I'm not going to dig through all the menus here. Your sound settings are in here as well, since this one does have the awesome Bowers and Wilkins sound system. Note that that is not standard on either trim. That's actually a $3,200 option on top of the Ultimate trim level. So the Plus gets the standard sound system, the Ultimate gets the Harman Kardon sound system, and then on top of that, you can option this 17 speaker Bowers and Wilkins sound system, which is excellent. If you have not heard a Bowers and Wilkins sound system, highly recommend it. It is great, and you can adjust your sound. If you're an audiophile, definitely get this one. You can adjust how you want the sound to come through. Now your HVAC controls are all through here as well, which is not ideal. You do have the defrosters down here, but outside of that, all your HVAC, your heated steering wheel, heated seats, ventilated seats, your fan, everything is through here. And so it is 2 clicks. You hit once to open the menu, and then you got to click through everything to change your settings. Those really, I wish those were knobs and physical buttons. Now, I did mention heated and ventilated seats. The only reason they're ventilated is because we are in the Ultimate trim. Otherwise, they would just be heated. And these seats are the Nappa leather seats. They would just be the regular leather seats if you're in the Plus trim. This one gets the Nappa leather, gets more power adjustability, 4-way power lumbar, power adjustable bolsters. It has thigh extensions, power adjustable. It has a massage feature that is a legit massage feature with a bunch of different options you can choose from for the massage. And a lot of these cars, they limit all those extra features to the driver's seat. This one, all of that also applies to the passenger seat. So the passenger gets that massage function and all the different power adjustability as well as the heat and ventilation. And I was a little concerned when I looked in the car at first and I saw, oh, I didn't get the wool seats. Oh man. But these are super comfortable. The Nappa leather seats are very, very comfortable. So no issues with that. And there are memory seats as well. You have 2 memory settings. And again, it does not matter which trim on that. The memory settings are standard. Mirror here, digital mirror. Love to see that. That helps with the visibility out the back, so you get the unobstructed camera view through there if you'd like to use that. Otherwise, you can just have it as a regular mirror. Auto dimming does have home link, doesn't matter which trim level you're in. That's great. Giant sunroof going on, doesn't matter which trim. I love the massive sunroof where my kids in the back can look up at the sky as well. It goes all the way back. Great to see that. Down in this area here, you can cover this up with the wood trim. Kind of a cool little touch there, just a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. You have the 12 volt here, the cigarette lighter. Your engine start stop is a little funky. We got the crystal thing going on because this is the upper trim. Otherwise it would just be the standard Volvo shifter, but the crystal is kind of cool just because it lights up at night, so you get a little bit of extra light and it looks kind of interesting. Now, in terms of the back seat space here, as I look past this little Swedish flag, like that little touch, the back seats there, these are heated because it has the climate pack on it. That climate pack is not standard. That climate pack is $750. It includes rear heated seats, includes the heated steering wheel. It includes the washers for the headlights. If you get the Climate Pack Pro instead, then you don't get the rear heated seats, but you actually get built-in boosters, which is kind of a cool feature. If you have kids that are in booster seats, they are built into the seats, and then you can kind of shove them away. You can tuck away the boosters, which is kind of a cool little thing. I've never seen that built into a car before. They also have window shades back there only because this is the Ultimate trim. Otherwise, they would not have the window shades. They've got the center cup holders back there as well. They've got a vent. They've got their own climate control back here, but you can control that up here as well. And the space back there, 36 inches, just under 36 inches of legroom. It felt like a lot more to me. It felt pretty spacious. I'm only 5'7". I fit in everything, but it did feel a little bit more spacious than that number would maybe make you think. It is Interesting to note that that's only about half an inch, a little more than half an inch bigger than the V60 rear seats in terms of measurements, though I haven't sat in the back of a V60, and those measurements, they don't always tell the whole story. So feels like plenty of space to me back there though. And of course, no Volvo is complete without their little parking ticket holder there for all your paper parking tickets that I'm sure you are using all of the time. But generally speaking, super nice interior, super comfortable, tons of great features. Even if you don't option this out to the way this one is optioned out, still a very nice interior either way. My only real issues, I would say, are the gloss black here and the fact that there's no wireless charger. There's not actually a spot to even put your phone. So that's really those are the only two things that I would sort of say are not my favorite, but everything else about this interior is very, very nice. As always, I've been driving this car around for the last week. I've been dropping kids off at school, going to work, doing the actual daily commute kind of thing with this car, and it has been great for that job. It's been great for hauling kids around. It's been great for hauling the dog around. It's been great for commuting. It rides really nicely. It's got this nice long wheelbase. Plus, this one has the air suspension option. Now, I was really hoping that air suspension was going to give the option to lower the car down to get the dog in the back, as I have seen some Volvos have had that in the past, but unfortunately that is not what this air suspension does. But what this one does is it does help a ton with the ride quality. It helps absorb a lot of the bumps here, and it will auto level. So if you do load up the back, if you load a bunch of stuff in there and it's nice and heavy, the back end won't be like lowered down while the front end is sticking up. It will actually level everything out. So air suspension is like $1,200, but in terms of ride quality, very, very nice feature to have. As far as the powertrain goes here, it is nice and peppy. This thing is quick. I drove it around a little bit before I looked up the specs on it, and it felt, I did not realize that it was a 4-cylinder. I thought it was a bigger engine because it is nice and quick. And I think one of the things that really helps is that mild hybrid system. Actually, I don't think I know that system is helping quite a bit. Now, a mild hybrid is not the same as a traditional hybrid. It's not really all about fuel efficiency. You're not going to be running fully on electric for any reason, really. But so if this were just a 4-cylinder with a turbocharger, then you would hit the gas, you would have a little bit of a wait while the turbo spools up, and then you get a shove. But with the electric motor and that supercharger, that electrified supercharger working together, you get power right away. So then by the time the turbo is spooled up and ready to shove you, then it's just more smooth rather than having this wait and a shove. The other thing it helps with is it helps get you a little bit more power also, of course, because it does aid the regular engine with that electric motor. It does supplement that power, and it helps with the auto start stop system. So a lot of times these auto start stops are kind of in the way. You come up to a light, engine shuts off, you want to go, and it's just like you're waiting for it to start up, and as the car's not ready to go when you are ready to go. But in this one, it's pretty seamless because you have that electric motor. You come to a light, everything shuts off. When you're ready to go, you hit the throttle and it just moves. There's no like obvious shudder or like with the starter going or anything that would really indicate that anything is not ready to go. It just is ready. The electric motor kicks in and you just start moving. Really, the driving experience here is great. The transmission, it's an 8-speed automatic transmission. I've had no issues with it. And there are no different driving modes outside of an off-road mode. So if you're on the road or on the regular road, there's no eco mode, there's no sport mode, anything like that. If you are just driving to work or driving on the highway, you're just going to be in the regular mode. So there's no adjusting what the transmission is going to do. There's no adjusting what the suspension is going to do unless you go into that off-road mode. Then that one will sort of adjust that stuff. The steering to firm or standard, I've had it in the firm mode just because I like a little bit more resistance. I need to feel like I'm doing a little bit something more but it's not like it's really hard to steer. It doesn't feel like it's manual steering or anything like that. So very comfortable, very smooth, very quick. All around visibility actually pretty good here. There is a bit of a blind spot here. This B pillar is pretty big, but the mirrors are huge. We've got the digital mirror going for the back. Now the back window is big. If I didn't have that dog cage back there, the visibility out the back would be really good. Plus you've got the headrest bonker thing going on here where you can knock the headrest down and get a little bit better visibility out the back if those are up. If it was just the bars across, it wouldn't be that bad, but since it also has that separate cage on the side, that is blocking quite a bit. But luckily we do have this digital mirror going on, so I've got an unobstructed camera view through the back. So that digital mirror being standard is super helpful. But again, even without that, as long as I didn't have the dog cage, visibility would be really good. One thing is these mirrors are gigantic, and they feel like they're up a little bit. Actually, they're kind of obstructing my view over to the side a little bit, but that's not really a big issue. I mean, I can see everything that's going on around here. It's not like a car is going to be hiding behind the mirror. Just one thing I've sort of noticed, and that does have blind spot monitoring in there. You've got the rear cross traffic alert. This has all kinds of safety features, all the stuff that you would want and expect. It has an oncoming traffic mitigation, sort of collision mitigation. If you start to drift into oncoming traffic, it will get you out of the way. Hopefully you're not doing that. It also has pilot assist. That is standard. This is going to be like, you've got your radar cruise, which is standard, your adaptive cruise, as well as like a lane centering thing going on. I've talked about this in some of the other Volvo videos and the Polestar video. But it's great when you're on a straight road. It works really well on the highway. It's great in stop and go traffic. When you start getting into areas with a lot of curves, it kind of falls apart a little bit. It's not quite as good as some of the other systems out there. But if you're going on a long trip, or if you're sitting in stop and go a lot, then that's going to be a nice system that's just going to kind of keep you centered in your lane and do the inching up for you. This one also has the heads-up display. Now, the heads-up display, as I mentioned before, is only in the Ultimate trim. That doesn't come standard in the Plus trim. It's not one that I would jump levels for necessarily. That would not be the deal breaker personally, just because it's not a ton of information. This one, some of them you get a lot of information in there. It gets really helpful. I like the ones that have the blind spot monitoring in them. This one here, it just has your current speed. It's got your speed limit, your traffic sign recognition. The traffic sign recognition is standard, but it'll just be down in the gauge cluster in the Plus trim. And this one, it's also in the heads-up display. But it's got your speed, your current speed limit, any other traffic signs, and it'll tell you if you're starting to get too close to someone. It'll tell you to back off. It'll tell you if you've got your cruise control set. It'll tell you what that's set at, but then that'll disappear after a while. Not sure why that disappears. Then it only shows down here after like a couple seconds. It stops showing up there. I wish that would stay up there. I did notice with the traffic sign recognition, it shows things like do not pass, like no passing zones, which I thought was interesting, but it wasn't super accurate with when that zone ended. So I wouldn't necessarily trust it for that, but that's not really something that anybody else is really doing or doing well. So not really nitpicking on that, but in terms of like the speed limits and stuff, it does a great job with those. And it does this cool thing where you can actually see what the next speed limit is going to be. If you're starting to come up to another area where it knows what the next speed limit's going to be, and it'll show the speed limits sort of stacked down in the gauge cluster. Actually, about the heads-up display, I lied. There is one piece of information that would make me jump into this trim level from the Plus trim, and that is the directions. So with this being a Google system already, everything is already integrated, which is nice. So you don't have to worry about like, oh, if I plug in my Android Auto, is the system going to be able to integrate with the gauge cluster, with the heads-up display for my directions? Well, since this is native, it is just using the Google system out of the box, it does already tap into the gauge cluster and into the heads-up display. So those all integrate. The fuel economy, I mentioned that 25 combined is what it's rated at. I'm getting close to 20. a little closer to 20 for the most part here. If I'm just on the highway, like right now, I've been mostly on the highway for this commute, I'm closer to 29, but in combined, I've been closer to 20. So, you know, it's all in how you're driving, of course, but it is rated at 29 highway, so I'm getting, you know, I am actually matching that for mostly highway driving. Now, if you are someone that has a little bit more of a lead foot, if you like to throw things around a little bit more and you're buying a wagon anyway because you want the practicality, there is a Polestar engineered option, which is going to tune things in a little bit more, dial things in, like your throttle is going to be a little snappier on the response. It's going to handle a little bit better. It's just going to be a little bit more dialed in if you're somebody that just wants something a little bit, you know, you can throw around a little bit more. Again, it's a wagon, it's a daily driver, and in the current form, it is very comfortable, it's smooth, it's peppy, it does its job very well. At the end of the day, it's great to see a wagon on the market with plenty of nice luxury features. It's plenty peppy as well. Got tons of space for pets, for kids, for stuff. Love to see this, and the new color looks great on this thing. If you're looking for an alternative to the sea of crossovers that you see everywhere, I would definitely recommend checking one of these out. As always, make sure to hit all the YouTube buttons. Again, I hate to say it, but it really does help me out. Like and share. Leave a comment if there's something that I missed, something you disagree with, something you agree with. If you want to see more of my dog in some of these videos, let me know down below in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.